Minneapolis City.
To post goals!
The People's Pitch Podcast, brought to you by Summit Brewing Company.
Oh, when the crows shit on your day. Oh, when the crows shit on your day. I want to be in that murder when the crows shit on your day. Welcome, you handsome people. This is the People's Pitch Podcast, the official podcast of your Minneapolis City Soccer Club, and why the hell not? Also, the official podcast of Stegman Soccer Club. I'm your host, John, and beside me, as always, I've said it before, but I'll say it again, the Garth Algar to my Wayne Campbell, the Nathan Morales. Nate, the high was real high for me this week. How are you?
Yeah, man, I'm doing great. I think I can't stop talking about this trip, telling people how awesome it was. I think we're lucky to have shared in the experience of a winning U.S. Open Cup team once again, John.
Yes, absolutely. And winning we did. We have a packed show tonight for you folks, and I think that I can speak for you, Nate, and myself, that when we have tons to talk about, we provide just pure audio gold for the people.
I mean, hopefully.
Right, exactly. So, folks, we are still undefeated in the U.S. Open Cup. Pat on the back to the team. We will recap our trip to Aurora, Illinois, and hear from some key players from that match. We'll talk briefly about our next opponent, the Rochester River Dogs, formerly known as the River Dogs, now the Rochester Lancers. So perhaps some sort of in disguise, like we may be considered entering the cup as, and just kind of talking a little bit about how how they who they are and how the hell we're going to make this trip happen. And finally, for those of you who don't know, the People's Pitch has an affinity for Old Grandad Whiskey, the official unofficial supporter of this here podcast. So we're going to bring you a new segment, which we like to call Nate's Old Grandad Rant of the Week.
Yeah, we put it at the end of the show so I can get a good running start at her.
Right. So pack in a few summits, maybe a little nip off Old Granddad, and it'll be a great new segment.
That is right. John, we had ourselves a weekend, man. We got everyone on a bus to East Jesus, Illinois. Basically, we
learned about the gangs.
We played a really good game of soccer, and I think everyone had an all-around great time. I am glad that I went. Not just because we got to hang out like old times, but because I got a glimpse into really everything that goes into Minneapolis City game day prep. So before we get to the game, I kind of want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, Nate, I would actually like to, interject here and talk a little bit about your access to the team this trip, like you mentioned. Being that we do this show together and you're an integral part of kind of the back of the house group that keeps this thing going. This is a really good chance for you to come along and kind of come along for the ride, literally. So, with that said, what are some key things that you were privy to that stood out for you on the trip? That maybe you're not used to seeing.
Well, so what I like is I don't. During the season, I only traveled a couple times this year. Last season, I only traveled a couple times with the team, and it was with the family or with, so I don't really get that.
Like mostly as a fan, right?
Yeah, mostly as a fan, but a little bit of course, as the podcast. And when we're here in town, I'm always setting up in the booth, making sure that I have the rosters and stuff from the opposing coaches. So I don't really get a glimpse into how the coaches prepare the team and kind of how you guys go over tactics. So I really liked that. I really liked how you talked about the conditions of the field, and you talked about, I'll get into this in a second, but just the approach that first you took as a coaching staff to get on the same page, and then how you guys brought the plan to the team, and then how the team executed it. It was really cool to be able to see it from a little baby soccer egg to a beautiful soccer phoenix.
Not quite sure I get your analogy, but I get it.
Okay. So let's start out by talking about who made this trip. The starters for the day were, of course, Matt Elder in goal, Aaron Olson, the back line of Aaron Olson, Trey, new guy Miles Norville, upgrade Miles as we call them, not because of Miles. It was just how I think it was a FIFA nickname.
Yep.
Chuck,
Which we played a lot of.
Yep, Chuck, Charlie Adams those were the back four, and then sitting right in front of them we had Miles Stockman Willis. We had Whitney on one wing with Wex and Martin kind of alternating as the forward midfielders, and then Nick on the other wing, and then up top we had our buddy Timmy Wills. So the formation, John, that you guys tried it out was like a 4-1-4-1.
Correct.
Sounds So I want to talk a little bit about what we set out to do.
Let's talk about the bench. The bench first.
Oh, I'm sorry, the bench. Yeah, so we brought also 4 guys besides that were on the bench. Ryan Camerata, Bear Needham Corda, who is a new guy, Rolando Barclay, another new guy, and then Jake Foley, another new guy. So we had a lot of our new blood on the bench to start, but each of them would they each had their roles to play should their number have been called. Mm-hmm. So I do want to talk a little bit about what the game plan was starting in this back. Like the center backs, if I remember right from when you were outlining it to the team in the hotel lobby, was that the center backs were going to try to hold a higher line that day in order to force Miles at the 6 at the CDM spot, and the rest of the midfield kind of up a little bit, so that Tim Wills wouldn't end up on an island, because that has happened a number of times in our history. It happened to Andy Laurie a lot, Matt Guay. Anytime we have a single striker up top, they tend to get isolated, which is not great. So how did you see that plan play out throughout the game?
I think to kind of go back to what you mentioned with having the center backs holding a higher line, what that also affords us the opportunity to do is, many times throughout the summer, and even in last Open Cup run, what we saw was we were able to keep like the lion's share of possession, but then there was those like minor breakdowns where, a lazy pass where you think you have it and then it gets picked off. But those type of turnovers were happening like deeper in our defensive third. And with having a high line and having more players up the field, we're able to dictate possession in the opponent's half. And I think you saw that in the fact that, for the first 15 minutes of the game, we'll get into what happened after that, but the first 15 minutes of the game, we were all over them in their half. Yep. And we were pressing as a unit, and we were attacking with the ball as a unit. And that was because we got our defense out of the out of our zone and across our half. And it also affords the opportunity for the wing backs to get more forward, which we know AO likes to get into the attack, and we know that Charlie can kind of play that deep lying through ball very well.
Yeah, that was nice because AO and Hutton, I think were they on the same side, or was Charlie and Nick on the same side?
Yep.
Yeah, so AO and Hutton on the same side have that kind of Stegman's magic where they're used to playing together. They play together a number of times over the course of the summer and then into the fall. They can just overlap, and they're used to that kind of play. But another thing that I want to point out that you coached the back line into was one-touch passing. Damn it! If you're gonna move the ball around the back line, you wanted one-touch passing and nobody was taking 4 touches and putzing around, and that gave the opponent less time to figure out where these passes were going to go and be able to cut that pass out and be on the break.
Right. Yeah. I totally agree with you. And I think that the defense did a really great job of that. There's many times where when you're not being pressed too hard right away and you're in the back, whether you're a center back or you're maybe even like a number 6 or like a defensive center mid, you have more time and you start to get tricky with the ball, and you started to try things that maybe aren't necessarily as high percentage because you have time. Where what we saw was 1 and 2 touch passing across the back line was quickly getting us up the field and then into more dangerous positions for Wexler and for Martin to kind of operate in the middle and then pick out the wingers attacking in from the outsides or finding Timmy.
So people might be surprised to see that last season's leading scorer was the center defensive mid, right? But if you remember, that was a role that he played a year ago to the day of this game. Both games had been played October 22nd, which I thought were really cool. So a year ago to that day, in his debut for our Open Cup game, Miles Stockman Willis was the center defensive mid. I'm sure available personnel had to be a reason to put him there instead of at striker, but is there another reason to go with Miles in his traditional spot and less and not in his kind of flashier spot?
Well, I think there were a couple different factors. One, I talked to him at breakfast in the morning, and I said, outside of Whitney scoring 2 goals in our Open Cup game last year, he was the best player on the field, and at that role, and he was really kind of the linchpin and the puppet master to kind of pull the strings from that deep lying midfield role. And I just told him, I said, you were the best player in the field last year when we did this in this role, and I need you to be even better this year because it's a shorter field. He's more prone to go forward than he is to go side to side and backwards, which is kind of speaking to that game plan of getting into the attacking zone quickly as a unit.
Yep.
Where he can make the quick 1-2s with another center midfielder, or he can play that long diagonal or direct ball when he needs to, and he's fairly accurate with it. So it was kind of that mixed with the fact that, if anyone knows Miles and his attitude, if you tell him he can't do something, he's going to figure out how to do it. And I kind of know how to tug at his heartstrings a little bit by telling him that he can't do things, little psychological gamesmanship. But I basically just said, I haven't seen you play that role before, so don't make me look like an idiot. Go out there and be better than you were last year. And he did. He never had his number really called. If you're pointing out who the bright spots were in the game, that's because he was doing his job so well that you didn't have to say, oh well, he made this great pass. It was more so he seemed non-existent because he was doing everything right.
Yeah. What I liked when I heard you talking to the team on Sunday morning was that you, Dan, and the rest of that coaching staff had a plan for each of our subs. You told the team that you had scenarios ready in which that you would be bringing them in, and then you went ahead and you communicated to them individually, privately to these players. And as we get into the game recap, we'll talk a little bit more about them. But were those scenarios in mind when you picked the team earlier this fall?
They were in mind a little bit. Basically, how they shook themselves out was just being very dedicated to the cause, and showing up at training. We had a little bit more dedication from our older players in this cycle than we did in the summer, I think.
Yeah.
And the 4 guys that we did bring, like you said, we looked at their strengths and we looked at the strengths of the guys that we were going to start with, and we really just dissected it down to the individual skill sets of each guy, and whether or not, you have a guy like Jake Foley who is a little bit more of a Swiss Army knife, where we can kind of put him in there, to fill a need if something happens. And then you have a guy like Barneedham who is just has world-class sprinter speed.
Just a burner.
Mm-hmm. When you look at Camerata, he plays with Wexler in the summer, Ao in the summer. He plays with Timmy in the summer, plays with Nick Hutton in the summer. And then Miles played on that team in the summer. And then he played against Charlie in the summer in the MASL. So you're looking at that with the fact that you might need someone to come in and to do a specific job and not have to have them get used to the guys they're playing with.
Yeah.
Because they're coming off the bench. That's something that he can do for us. And then you have a guy like Rolando, who's just a big, strong forward who can play on a wing or can play as a target striker. So you have some flexibility there depending upon what you need. If you need a goal or you need someone to just kind of beat down the defense and hold up possession because Timmy got tired, you can insert a guy like him in there. So yes, some definitely things were in mind, but it wasn't when we built the team. It was more of what kind of shook itself out at training.
So we get to the fields. The bus rolls up to the campus of Mooseheart Academy or whatever the heck it was. It looked like
Moose
it
Knuckle
looked
U.
like it looked like the school from what was that, Toy Soldiers, that movie where like the terrorists come, right? There were like all sorts of buildings, and we're like, is this a high school or a military academy or what's going on here?
Smokestacks and
we
just
couldn't figure it out. But
yeah, it was beautiful looking campus though.
It was a real nice campus, but the field was a high school football field that we were going to play on. So it was really short, really narrow, a track like right next to it, like the track went around it and hugged it really tightly. So how did you guys game plan for such a short, narrow field? What considerations need to be made when you play at a field like that versus like at the Nelly or at Bavarians or something?
So I marked off the field when we got out there before the other team kind of got out to warm up, so I could kind of pace off the length and the width. So the length was 100 yards, which is bare minimum, and the width was 75. So we're looking at almost a perfect square. So our thought process was in a game that's kind of win or go home, you need to get the ball forward and create attacking chances. And you might get a weird bounce that you can hammer in a goal, but you also need to be able to build the play through possession. So you're thinking about a square, short field. The long ball is not going to work all the time because you're going to run into the distance factor.
Yeah,
but if
you're not going to find as much green with a long ball. You gotta hit dimes every time.
Right, you have to hit dimes every time, or you have to play the ball on the ground as your through ball. And I think you can speak to this, that we saw that some of our through balls, when they weren't working through the air, were slicing up the defense on the ground into space versus over top. And what the other thing that we talked about was that not only was the field small, it was wet and it was turf. So we had to really talk about
turf too, yeah.
We had to talk about the fact that our possession style that we know we can play is what we fall back to when we need to calm the game down and get it back into our momentum. And we played a lot of possession style games in training that were kind of square based versus playing full sided in a rectangle.
Yeah.
So it kind of actually helped us then more than you would think. That we were kind of training for without even knowing that was going to be the case.
All right, so on to the game. City came out true to our game plan. We kept possession. We were moving the ball around nicely, very calm, very effective. I think Martin was a great distributor. Miles was doing a great job of finding that perfect pass. Wex was doing an amazing job of keeping possession and being able to move on his own. And I'm going to tell you, he was at the form that he was at the end of last season. I think at the end of the season, it was almost like, man, this guy should have been starting a lot more. And I'm glad that he was able to come and contribute to this game. But it felt like anytime anyone was pressed on our team, they at least had one outlet to pass to get rid of the ball and keep possession. You talked in the pregame about when you were talking to the team about how and where players should be moving in support. That seemed like it was working.
Yes, when you come up with a game plan and it's too complex, you get a lot of mouth-breathing idiots on a soccer field.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to remember all the intricacies.
Yeah, what should I do here?
I'm not a player, and I was trying to keep tabs of what you were telling them. I'm just like, I just hope they get it.
So what we tried to do was break it down by segment on the field. So we had specific tasks for Matt Elder in goal. We have a short field. Let's not try to throw the ball out. Let's get it out of our defensive zone so we can clear the lines of our defense out. They can push up. Mm-hmm. And then with our center backs, we already talked about it. 1 and 2 touch passing and then getting out. And then we talked about our midfield with keeping our midfield shape, as that true diamond in the center or a triangle in the center of having Miles at the base of it and having Wexler and Marty kind of interchanging as needed, in the middle, but also what their roles were when the ball went outside to a winger, what we expected from them, when the ball was in the back line, what we expected from them, and then our wingers, the runs we wanted them to make, so a primary and a secondary run, and then what we wanted out of Timmy with his ability to kind of check to a ball versus trying to break a guy down. So yep. I thought it did work. I think that the guys knew what their primary and secondary roles were when they had the ball and when they didn't have the ball. And, as we got into a little bit further on in the game, which we'll talk about, things broke down a little bit in the second half, but we were able to quickly get back into our shape and take a hold of the game again because we talked about it earlier on.
The action, man. Whitney had the first chance at 11 minutes. I mean, real quickly. But the keeper was able to parry it aside. And not 2 minutes later, Chuck goes over the back on a deep ball, on a challenge from a deep ball, and gets called for the foul. Aurora buries the ensuing free kick from 30 yards out to go up 1-0. I know what was going through my head. What was going through your mind on the bench, and what were you telling players?
The first thing that I want to note is that what you left out was that right before the foul, which I don't necessarily think it was a foul, their goalkeeper made another incredible save on a ball that Charlie put in from deep.
Yes.
And what I had talked about with Charlie and with Miles was that because of the short distance of the field, you got a green light from the parking lot to take deep shots.
And Chuck's made a couple of real... Chuck had... I think he scored a deep goal or two during the course of the season.
Yeah, he had a really deep one against Eris, which, isn't saying too much. But,
Right.
No, yeah, I mean, he's put a ball in dangerous positions from a deeper lying position. Mm-hmm. So I just told him, like, let it fly, man. Like, if you have a chance, he's a center midfielder by trade. So he has an attacking mindset, and you can see that when he gets the ball that he's got what do you call his move? The Chazzle Dazzle.
The Chazzle Dazzle.
So he put the Chazzle Dazzle on a guy and then got a shot off, and it was going to back post, and the goalie got a good hand on it. But to go back to your initial question, when that free kick went in, I looked at Dan and Cole and Dan Warner, and I was just like, what the hell? Like, is this going to happen to us again, where we completely own a segment of a game and then we have one breakdown / opportunity for the opponent and then they score? Like, is this going to be that day again where we're like, what's going on? And
a Med City at
the
Nelly kind of day.
Yeah, where everything is grass is greener on the other side, right? And then one thing happens, and from our vantage point on the bench, being downfield level, you couldn't really see whether or not Matt could have gotten a hand on it. But hats off to the guy who took it, because it was a well placed free kick.
Yeah.
And most games are won on set pieces, so and lost on set pieces. So I was just nervous at that point, thinking like, "Oh
we
God,
go again!" But it's different though, because where in the past we start to get worried, right? We play a little desperately. City broke form here, and we stuck to our possession-based game plan. And in fact, we bossed possession all half, despite the one fluke free kick. Like that free kick was the only Aurora Borealis shot on goal until the 45th plus minute.
Yeah.
We had a number of chances throughout the course of the half where the keeper got his hands on it, but you could see this trend. He wasn't holding on to a single one of these balls.
That guy had oven
right
mitts on. Oh, man.
Yep. A blast, like you mentioned, the blast from Chuck that precluded the free kick goal, bounced free back into the box, and nobody could find it. A Miles free kick, which was only slapped away from the stands, at least standing next to Nick Sint and some of the supporters. We were thinking that it was only a matter of time until something very FIFA was going to happen. And I say that because you can score some ridiculous ass goals off of the computer in FIFA when they make mistakes.
Yeah, I think you're 100% correct. The goal happened basically on the fact that we were in their half, and a ball was played through that was a little bit ambitious. I don't know who played the ball in, but it was just something that Timmy was never going to get onto. But in true Timmy fashion, he found some like weird pocket of space to kind of pressure the center back who was trying to head the ball back to the goalie. And it was like the softest back pass header on the face of the earth ever in the history of soccer. And the guy just dropped it, and Timmy was just all alone with a wide open goal. So
it was like he was heading back a live grenade or something. That keeper did not want to hang on to that ball.
Yeah, hot potato. So Timmy was able to be in a position to kind of what we call attack the second ball. So he did, and we'll talk to him a little bit later about the goal, but he didn't have any time to think about it. He just had to react, and he did, and he slotted home an empty net goal.
Yeah, man. But we weren't done, right? And just less than 10 minutes later, we got our second.
Yes, and AO scored our second goal, Aaron Olsen, and I must say that it might have been one of the better, or if not the best game I've ever seen him play for Minneapolis City. Just hard-nosed defending to the point where one of their kind of star in parentheses attackers switched sides because he didn't want to face him anymore.
I was wondering. I thought someone switched sides. I was like, did AO and Chuck switch sides, or is that their guys?
Yeah, so we heard him come over and talk to the coach on the sideline, and he's like, "Switch sides. I got nothing going down this side," and that's basically another way of saying this guy is completely owning me, and let me try the other guy.
Yeah.
But what AO was doing with that kind of Stegman's connection that you mentioned with Nick was that he was attacking pretty high up the field. One, because he was so amped and he has the speed to get back and if he needs to when he gets forward.
Mm-hmm.
But he made a really nice entry ball into Nick, who didn't have the opportunity to turn right away, and then just continued his overlapping run and a little bit of individual skill by Nick.
That was Martin.
Martin the ball went into Nick, and a little bit of like individual skill got the ball to Martin, and AO just continued his run and made I don't know whether it was a planned first touch the way he had it, or it just was the way the ball bounced. But his first touch was able to beat the defender going full speed, and then he hit it on the second touch into the far post, and really nice goal. And there we go, up 2-0,
up to 1
or 2-1.
Yeah, I mean, when I was talking to Aaron on the bus about it, just kind of reminiscing as we tended to do as the sun set on the Wisconsin-Illinois border. He was saying like he did not expect to get played through. He thought he was giving it to Martin so Martin could do something else with it, and all of a sudden the ball was right back in front of him, and he was like, "All right, sweet," and he ripped that thing almost across the whole face of the goal. Like
left foot.
It was a left foot shot that went into the opposite net, into the opposite netting, the side netting, and the keeper had no chance. It was great. I loved it.
0.
So 2-1 on at the half, and when you go into that locker room at halftime, it's cold, it's rainy, but we're winning. What did you guys talk about?
The main thing we talked about was erase the fact that they scored their goal, and erase the fact that we scored 2 of our goals. We're going in on paper up a goal, but we need to really just hit reset and start over and get back to where we were the first 15 to 20 minutes of the first half. So that's getting our high lines, keeping our shape, and number one, most importantly, was if you have a shot, take it, because the guy can't hold on to it. So we basically did a little bit of let's get back to what worked, and then let's throw in a little bit of gamesmanship and saying this guy's awful with catching a soccer ball, so let's exploit it.
Yeah.
And other than that, really no changes besides the fact that going into the dying minutes of the second half before AO scored, talking with the players on the bench about what potentially could be coming from a sub early on in the second half, being that we were up 2-1.
So in the second half, while you guys were in the locker room, just to set the stage, the wind picked up. It was already pretty chilly out. The wind
switched directions.
It actually started kind of swirling, going back and forth a little bit. It was wet. It wasn't really raining. It was like an ever-present heavy mist. It was the most bizarre, gross.
It sucked.
Rain that I'd stood in my life, and you could tell when the guys came out, it was different than when they went back in, and it was kind of shocking to them. But Aurora came out firing. They scored a goal in the first 2 minutes to tie it up 2-2. What happened? What did they change to get a chance so quickly that they couldn't buy in the first half?
Well, they made a couple tactical adjustments to their formation, and slight enough adjustments that unless you were really paying attention when they came out, you wouldn't have noticed. So they basically, what they did was they overloaded. They switched to overload on their offensive end. So they went from one target striker with kind of a number 9 in behind, or number 10 in behind, and they went to more of a 4-4-2. So they had 2 attackers up. But then what they did was the guy that wanted no piece of AO in the first half kind of found himself out wide again on Charlie's side. And his role was basically kind of it wasn't defensive, I can tell you that. Yeah. It was more of trying to, when he can, to overload and have 3 attacking options up front. So they made a little bit of a tactical adjustment, and then they just came out with a little bit more fire than we did.
So after 2 great plays, one to his brother onto goal, and one that almost caught the keeper out of position that probably should have gone in the net, but that's all right. Whitney was subbed in for Veranetum Corda in the 58th minute. What was the scenario here?
The scenario was that Whitney actually picked up an injury, and we knew we could get 45 minutes out of him, and that was kind of the task we gave him was
Knew
give
or
us
hoped?
What's that?
You knew you could, or you hoped you could?
We knew that unless he aggravated that injury, that we could get 45 minutes out of him. But we also knew is that Barneatum is a 90-minute type player with his just physical ability.
Yeah.
So if something were to have happened to Whitney in the beginning of the game, we could have brought him in earlier if we wanted to. But we knew that with his speed and his ability to defend on the wing as well as attack and get back, that if we were up a goal, he'd be a good person to put out there to add a little bit more defensive flavor to the wing, because Whitney's more of
an get back faster, yeah.
Yeah, and Whitney's more of an attacking winger than a defending winger.
That's true.
And then if we were down a goal, we knew with his just straight speed, we could use him to sprinkle into what our tactical plan was of looking for that diagonal ball, where he could run by anyone on the field. So he was brought in because we knew 45 minutes, maybe 60 tops, was kind of Whitney's gas tank.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, he's good. Scary moment on the slick turf when Charlie Adams goes down, coming back. I think was he on the, I can't remember if he was on the attack or what. Oh, he was coming back to defend. And he straight up did not move. Like, he was lying on his stomach, like slapping the ground, and we thought something was up. As they stopped play, the trainer came over. The trainer had to help him roll over, make sure his knee was stabilized as he came over, and it was really scary looking from the sideline that they were treating him so gingerly. But in the end, I talked to him after the game. He was good. He was all good. He was able to run it off. He said he heard his knee, or he heard something kind of crack a little bit. Was a little worried that it was one of his ligaments, but it was not.
It was not.
He said
it wasn't.
He just has an old knee thing that sometimes will flare up, and he was good. So luckily, Charlie Adams not out for his career thanks to some bullshit slick rainy garbage turf. But Barclay, Rolando Barclay comes in for him after a few minutes of play. Did this injury screw up your plan at all?
It absolutely did. So our plan
Charlie,
of attack,
you could plan for 90 minutes easy.
What's that?
Because Charlie's a guy you can slot him in for 90 minutes easy.
Right. So our thought process was Whitney or Barneatum for Whitney at the half, and then see how things go, and then bring on some other guys off the bench. One of them not necessarily being Rolando, because he's more of we need a goal type sub.
Yeah.
And Barneatum was really who we wanted on the wing to attack and to defend. And what this caused us to do was we just didn't want to keep trotting Charlie out there because they were pushing more guys forward if he had any inclination that he couldn't keep up with one of their attackers.
Yep.
Also, we had to think in mind too was penalties. If we get into an overtime in a penalty situation, Charlie is already feeling it, and we don't want to try to have him take a penalty and potentially miss because he's not 100%.
Yep.
So the thought was, let's let him kind of see how he is. We actually switched his side with AO, so AO could match up with his new buddy again from the beginning of the game, and see how he could fare against maybe a less speedier, less physical forward. And it just looked like he was favoring his knee a little bit too much than we would have liked. So bringing on Rolando was really just a way for us to kind of put a Band-Aid on things, and move Barneatum back and have him just straight defend.
Which is too bad, because his speed would have been nice on the attack, but oh well. So the second half kind of played out a little back and forth. They had some dangerous moments in our half. We had some dangerous moments in their half, but ultimately nobody could really capitalize, despite a couple of nice chances that the keeper could not hang on to. John, what are your thoughts on the rest of the second half? I think I was incredibly nervous. I was just, internally shaking. A little bit because I was cold, a little bit because I was excited, a little bit because I was worried. It was a very complex miasma of feelings for me in the second half.
My thoughts in the second half were basically this. The only way we're going to lose this game is if we get too tired. Because they only had 13 players. We had 15. You can only bring on 3 subs. So, you're looking at that and you're thinking, okay, who's going to be the most fit here and who's played together the longest? And it just looked like we were able to hit another gear, and chances came and we didn't capitalize, and it looked as if we were going to go into overtime a lot sooner than we kind of had thought in the second half, because of that brief period where we started the half and then they kind of took over. And we knew that at that point, I kind of leaned over and mentioned to Dan that they can't withstand that. If we can just get our momentum back, no matter how long it takes, hopefully before penalties, we can win the game, because they just didn't have it. And I knew we could hit another gear. And we did. We hit another gear going into the end of the second half. And I think Kyle at 55-1 really, really kind of said it best when he said that when he interviewed their coach, and he said, we had a couple shots that we missed wide, and we put those on target. We never know what's going to happen. And then Dan's response to that same question was, we hit the post and one of those falls and we might score 2-3 more goals. So definitely a tale of two different sides of that story in the second half, where they really thought that they had the momentum when we thought we clearly did. But I just knew going into overtime, because we had done it before, that as long as we banded together and stuck to the plan, that we were going to be just fine.
Word. So extra time gets rolling, and Ryan Camerata comes in for Ben Wexler, partly because Wex has been playing for 90, partly because, like you said, we needed to find that extra gear, and a fresh guy could do it for us. Why Cammy over Jake Foley?
I think an experience level kind of came into play there. And also what we needed out of a center midfielder. And with Ryan, we'll talk to him a little bit. He's used to playing with those guys. Like we talked about, play with him all summer, play with them, some of those guys in college. Just had a real connection, and he's good in tight spaces. And he's kind of what you need out of a center midfielder when you need to get a goal, because he's going to change things up a little bit. Because he's always thinking about going forward, and he's very calculated in the passes he makes, and he likes to try things, but he doesn't get crazy. So we needed someone a little bit more tricky in there that could help create, versus someone that could hold things down if we had a lead, and that's why we made that decision.
So City sticks to the plan in the first half of extra time, ultimately scoring the winner after a succession of corners. I think the second or third corner in a row finally was headed in by Nick Hutton to score the winning goal. I could not believe it when I saw it. It looked like a mess in front of goal. It was hard to see what was going on up there. But delivered from Martin Brown Jr., it's always going to be on target, and it found someone, and that's all that matters. We go, and that was right at the end of the first half of extra time. John, what are your thoughts on the final 15 minutes? How hectic was it? What kind of somersaults was your stomach doing?
Well, I actually wasn't worried, to be honest with you, because even in the last 15 minutes with a lead, we were still creating chances.
Yep.
We were doing everything we needed to defend, and I think that we haven't talked about the play of Trey and Miles Norville at all. It's because they were just completely doing their job, and when you have center backs that possess that level of height and aerial ability, there's really no way for a team to go down Route 1 and start lumping long balls in, especially on a short field where those guys can just win everything in the air. And I thought that they panicked and they started lumping things forward, which really stretched things out for us to keep the ball a little bit more when we won it, that there was no way we're going to lose the game. I actually thought we might bag another goal.
It looked like it, because Rolando he had a couple nice ones. One of them went It made the keeper go directly vertical. It was a beautiful save to put his hand straight up in the air and had to hit the ball at the exact right moment to pop it over the top of the net or over the top of the crossbar. But you're right. We had a couple of nice chances. Thought it would happen for us. There was one brief moment where the ball was kind of bouncing around between Trey, Miles, and Elder, and Miles just calmly and coolly stepped in
and just put it in the parking lot.
Put it in the parking lot, and that's kind of what we were telling him. Is like, look, don't try to get cute on these clearances. I remember you saying before the game, if it comes down to it, kick it out. Don't fuck around.
Yeah, just get it out.
That's what he was doing. So, John, that was it. The whistle blows, and we found ourselves the winners. We were able to talk to, or I was able to talk to 3 of our key players on the bus. Let's hear what they had to say about the game, and then we'll wrap her up.
All right, sounds good.
I am on the bus with Tim Wills. Tim, 120 minutes tonight up front. Definitely a lot more than you're used to as a guy that either starts the game or comes on late as a clutch sub. Where'd you find that extra gear to go the full mile?
You know, I was thinking about the last time I played 120 minutes, and I couldn't think about it. It was probably college, which was a long time ago for me. I don't know. It was nice that it wasn't too hot out and it was raining, so able to run a little bit more. But it was all in all a pretty good showing, I would say.
You're putting in work today against a motivated Aurora team. What did you draw on for your own motivation to get that extra energy?
It was nice to have a good group of guys with us here. We had 14 guys that came down, or maybe 15 guys, but we've all played together for a while now. We've been training for a couple months, so it's been the build-up. Obviously, the game in September was forfeited by the opponent, so we haven't played against a real opponent in a while, and it was nice to finally get some game time.
So we'll get to this a little more in a sec, but the keeper's hands today, not great. When you see something like that and you see the balls more bouncing off of his mitts rather than nestling comfortably inside them, what do you start thinking?
Follow every shot. It was suspect from the beginning, and even in warm-ups, he was looking pretty skeptical. So it was like he had oven mitts on or something. He couldn't catch the ball. But yeah, that's how. Obviously, my goal. That's how I scored the goal. But following shots, and I don't think he caught a single ball that game.
No, I don't think he did. So walk us through that goal. As you say, following a shot in, kind of have to shove him aside. But what happened from your perspective?
Yeah, honestly, I don't remember who played the ball, but I think it was just maybe an overhit through ball that got played over their center back's head, and I was running towards their goal, and their center back, it was about head height, and the goalie was coming out, and I thought he might have not seen his goalie coming out, and he headed it back. Clearly, it was either too strong or the goalie was too bad, but it bounced right off his chest, I think, and then I just ran through the goalie and didn't want to look again before trying to score, so I just hit it the first time and it went in.
Yeah, you said something earlier that if you looked up, you would have lost that step. So you just kind of guessed at where the goal was in the general direction and hit it to the back.
Yeah, at that point I was inside the 18 and it was decently close. And yeah, I had no idea where the goalie and the center back were. So I just figured I could turn 100 degrees and shoot it first time, and it would be a good enough chance to go in.
Well, they were behind you, so you could have walked in. So we are still undefeated in the U.S. Open Cup, two U.S. Open Cup games that you've been a part of. What is it going to take for this team to stay undefeated through the next round, whenever that may come?
Yeah, well, you have to imagine the next team will be even better, but I think we left a lot of chances on the field today. There were shots we didn't put away, and there were some breakaways that we could have converted, but I think we have it. I mean, we have dedicated guys. We have a good, solid team, so I'm looking forward to either next month or whenever we play again.
All right. Thanks, Tim. It's quiet time on the bus, so back to your nap. All right. Welcome to the podcast, Ryan Camerata. Cammy, first time on the podcast, first time for a post-game interview, and we're excited to have you. So some might call you the ultimate role player. You've got your character sheets. You've got your D20, your 20-sided die. You come in at clutch time. You really helped put us over the top, and you helped kill that game tonight. what's your approach coming off the bench at the end of regulation, and what were you looking to do during extra time?
Well, I mean, I guess I'm a veteran, for this team. I'm a little older, so I don't have a whole lot of experience coming off the bench, so I was just trying to stay loose, stay ready, I guess. The fourth official was giving us a hard time, so the whole second half we were just walking behind the goal because we didn't want to sit on the wet bench, so just trying to stay loose and possess the ball a little.
So, like you said, you were sitting on the wet bench for the whole game. It was rainy. It was cold. How hard is it to keep your head in the game and to not just focus on how miserable you feel?
It was a lot of fun. I mean, and the guys on the bench were a lot of fun to talk to. There was some jokes. There were some people were getting inside the head of the fourth official who was giving us a hard time for, yelling about some of the calls that were bad in the first half. So, but yeah, I mean, it was a good effort. I don't know. It wasn't that bad. We all had raincoats. Everyone was loaning raincoats, so it wasn't too bad.
That's good. So you come in the first period or the first extra time. You help build the attack. You help keep possession. How did your approach change after we went up 3-2 at the end of that first 15 extra minutes?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't played in a whole lot of silver goal or, full 30-minute overtimes before. Back in the day, they always used to do golden goal, so
yeah.
It was kind of an odd thing we were attacking still, but it was almost like the game already felt like we had it in the bag, so we were just trying to keep possession, make them chase a little, keep the pressure off our defense, I guess.
They actually did increase the pressure, it felt like, in that last 15 minutes. They kind of held the ball in our final third quite a bit. It was getting a little worrisome. How did you guys look to change that and close it out?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was it was a wide field, but it wasn't a very long field. So it almost seemed like, in a normal game, their defense has it, you're dropping off. But in this game, it was almost like they were just serving balls in, and they've got, pushing guys forward on the back post. But luckily, we've got some really good defenders in the air, so they would win that first header, and we were just trying to, get on the second ball, make sure they didn't put another one in. Yeah,
the addition of Miles Norville this game really helped on that vertical game, right? Both Miles and Trey can get up, and that was nice. Hey, what are your thoughts on this Minneapolis City / Stegman's team moving into the next round, especially after this game? Exciting to see everyone come together and finally play a U.S. Open Cup game together. You've been training with them for a number of months.
Yeah, no, it was good to finally play. I mean, we've had a few good scrimmages against VSLT, but it was good to actually play in a game that counted and get a result, so yeah.
Sweet. Well, thanks a lot, Ryan. Really appreciate it. All right, I am here with Nick Hutton, he of the game-winning goal. Nick, 120 minutes on the wing. That's a lot of running today, man. How do you train for that kind of? Is that kind of fitness something that this team was training for, or is that just something that's part of your game and part of the way you play?
We do a lot of fitness and stuff, but I've been blessed with a lot of running legs and over the years, and I was as tired as everybody else out there. That's for sure. I mean, everyone's running hard and closing people down. It's just a different position.
In the end, you found something a little extra, scoring the game-winning goal off a set piece. You want to walk us through that?
Heck yeah! I mean. We're scrapping. We're putting a lot of chances on, and everyone knew we were just gonna takes one chance, got to bury it. And I think if I'd have missed it, Burritum and Barkley were right there behind me, and their guy tried jumping, but Three Crows got up way higher, so it was awesome. We just be able to get a chance buried.
When you guys went in after regulation, what did the team talk about, and what did the team talk about between the periods after we had taken the lead?
I think cleaning it up a bit. I mean, we were just missing passes. The ball skipped like crazy. We were missing each other. Their only chances were mistakes we handed to them. And so once we cleaned it up a little bit, we realized that they started pressuring a little bit faster, and we had to play a little bit quicker. And if we're in trouble, let's just go north-south and keep ourselves out of trouble, and we'll find a chance because we got pace on all over the field, and we got some good guys to find the ball.
Nice. Another road win for this club, something that we seem to be good at. What about a 7-hour bus ride brings out the best in Minneapolis City?
I mean, I learned a hell of a lot by playing FIFA in the back. Pace kills is what we learned. I'm getting burned all day in FIFA. It's just fun. We had a good time out here.
Good. Hey, first goal since you got back from your honeymoon. Any dedications on that one?
Oh man, yeah. I told the wife and family that, they cracked up. It was pretty funny. That was a great line. But yeah, my legs are feeling it from the honeymoon. We hiked Machu Picchu, and it was pretty tough, but it was awesome. It was so fun. It was a great cap to the honeymoon. This is part of it.
That's for sure. That's for sure. All right, man. From the mountains of Peru to the game-winning goal here in Aurora, Illinois. Nick Hutton, thanks a lot, dude.
Cheers, mate. Thanks.
All right, so we heard from two of our goal scorers, and we heard from Ryan Camerata and kind of got his take on what he saw when he came in and kind of his overall thoughts. But I think that, by and large, listening to what we talked about and what these guys had to say about their take from on the field, I think that it truly goes back to the fact that, we had a game plan and we executed it, and we were able to, to bring one home. So, overall, folks, I can't reiterate it enough on how much better it was to ride home a winner back to Minneapolis versus 6 hours of being a loser and trying to keep the morale high as we go into the winter. But we won. Yay for us. Pat on the back. We went into this game loose, feeling, a continued disrespect as a team, whether it's a disrespect from the tournament committee or a disrespect from the other team only trotting out 13 as a home game on a Sunday. But definitely all on the same page as a unit. And if we could bottle that up and pour a little bit of that out each time we hit the field for this tournament and into the summer, I think we really found the secret sauce, Nate.
I think Matt Elder said it best when we were sitting on the bus. He just said, "You guys," or we were eating pizza afterwards after the game in the field house of Mooseheart. He said, "You guys, winning just feels so fucking good. I just love it."
I agree with his sentiment, and I also thought that some of you have seen on social media, and I sang I noted a little bit of it in the beginning that the guys in the locker room singing "When the Crows Shit on Your Day" was definitely a highlight of my trip.
That was cool.
So, if you're connected to the organization and we're not living under a rock for the past 4 days, you have heard that we have been dealt another blow across the chin for being randomly, in quotation marks, drawn for the next round of the Open Cup to face the Rochester Lancers of the NPSL away in New York the weekend before Thanksgiving. So that, folks, is a third away game that we've been drawn, and with it comes a total logistical nightmare for the club. And part of that also is that I looked back in some of the stats, and in the modern era, which is 1999 and on, no team at this stage of the tournament has been drawn 3 straight road games away.
Yeah, pretty ridiculous, I think, especially considering, they gave us in the Midwest division they shipped us off to the Northeast. And I've been to Rochester, John. It is definitely the Northeast. I don't know. I don't know what's better. Should we have played there, or should we have gone to Colorado? Because there are 0 other teams in our area that have reached this stage of the tournament that are not automatically qualified.
The answer, Nate, is we should have been drawn a home game. That's the true answer, because we not only had an outdoor field option, we had an indoor field option. We had proof of concept from last year's tournament that we can host a game. We had everything going for us that we would be able to win the, again, in quotes, random draw to be able to host the game. And it's unfortunate that now there's so many things that are going against us that we can't control, especially as a self-funded club like ours, that, you get to a point where you have to make a decision how to move forward with trying to play a game like that. Do you mortgage the future on one game to stay in a tournament, or do you have to, gracefully bow out like some of these other teams are, and then you're labeled a forfeiter, and that's not who we are.
It's just BS, right? So what do we know about our opponent, man? I mean, we're going to make this trip to Rochester. We got to know a little bit about who we're playing.
Yes, we do know. So the Rochester Lancers, formerly known as the Rochester River Dogs with a Z.
With a Z.
With a Z, yeah, the Dogs. It would have been a lot cooler if they were DAWGZ, I think, than just DOGZ. But they're based in Rochester, New York, and were founded in 2015. And they played their inaugural season in 2016. The team plays in the NPSL, which we also play in, and they operate out of the Midwest East Great Lakes Division, with the likes of Buffalo, Erie, the Dayton Dynamo, and a few others. And their home ground is something called Wegmans Sports Complex in Rochester, New York. No idea what that means.
Yeah, it's on the campus of. Wegmans is a grocery store chain that's like Baby Whole Foods.
Okay, well, they play at Baby Whole Foods Complex in Rochester, New York. In 2016, their inaugural year, they finished with a 3-4-3 record in the MPSL, winning their first ever game against Buffalo, 1-0. And in 2017, they finished a respectable third place with a 6-4-2 record in that Great Lakes East Division, just 1 point off of league-leading Erie.
John, that's 3 in a row. Kansas City, Aurora, and now Rochester. Why would we not be chosen to host at least one of these games? Like, how can this happen 3 times in a row?
The guess is as good as mine. I have no clue how this possibly happened. We're told it's a random draw, but the only factor that we can...
Is it a random draw, like just whoever gets heads or tails is home, or is it random as far as like whoever we draw out of your region you're playing?
Well, both? Both.
Either.
And you have to apply in your application process to host. So there's some teams that enter the tournament that are like, we just don't have a home ground and we'll just travel. Very few of those exist.
Seems foolhardy, yeah.
Right, but it does exist. The main thing is that because of the logistics to play in this tournament and the registration process and the geographical distance that is required to travel, many teams just don't sign up for it. So we fall into a category of a region that doesn't have enough teams to participate. And I don't mean that there aren't any that exist. I mean, you have every one of the teams that we played against, this summer that isn't a potential automatic qualifier, and the teams out of the PLA, some of the just general.
They're just not applying. They're just not making it a priority. The Bavarians, for instance, don't participate in the U.S. Open Cup. They go for the Men's Amateur Cup.
Right. Because of the fact that there's regional qualifying that actually makes sense, and not regional qualifying that takes you to New York. So in the U.S. ASA, the Adult Soccer Association tournament that the Bavarians have come runner-up the past 2 years, their distance to travel is minimal. We brought a Stegman's team down to play against them in one of the regional qualifiers. Then they go to Detroit and they play against an Ann Arbor team. And so I believe it was Ann Arbor team. That might be I might have gotten that wrong. But they went to Michigan to play a team. They're not traveling to New York to play a team or Pittsburgh. They're truly within region. So you look at it from the geographical distance and the costs for travel as one aspect. The other aspect is the player clearance aspect. So we know how to navigate that from not only last year's U.S. Open Cup, but also from playing in the NPSL and getting players that have international, international. They're born out of the country. They have to go through a totally different qualifying process through U.S. soccer, whereas like random guy born in the U.S. just automatically gets cleared with his passport.
Yeah, but that shouldn't have anything to do with like whether or not we host or not.
That shouldn't, but what it does is it leads into the amount of teams that qualify, because if you look at some of the teams that forfeited, including Kansas City that we played against, they're not used to in their state leagues trying to figure out
deal with that level of scrutiny.
Yeah, that level of paperwork that you have to do, and it's difficult. It's not easy. and the deadlines are tight. So if a guy that's on your roster that could be on your roster for this game doesn't get his shit in on time, then you're screwed. He's out.
Sorry,
so,
dude.
Yeah, sorry, you didn't follow the rules. So when it comes to a hosting perspective, clearly there's something going on there. It doesn't make sense to not only just us, other people out there, that we got hosed, and we should have at least been able to host one of these 3 games, right? Like, there's no coin toss on earth that would keep us out of hosting one of those games. We
hosted one last year, and it was our only one.
Right.
So we're trying to make this trip. How are we going to make this trip, John? What are the team's plans? Because I think Dan broke it down pretty well at our year-end banquet, if you will, whatever you want to call it, our year-end event. When he said, like, we have budgeted for the U.S. Open Cup, but not a lot. So the money the money's not quite there yet. What are the team's plans to fundraise for this, or to supplement the costs of traveling to Rochester, New York, to play a Sunday game?
Well, step 1 was marry a sugar daddy, and that didn't happen. So, So if there's any out there, we'd be willing to sell off any one of our club members for a nice fat check to go travel to New York. So if any of those guys catch your eye, give us a shout on Twitter.
Maybe some other eccentric tech giant.
Yeah, right. There's got to be someone here, right? But we look at the cost, at least $15,000 to get there, which is like a third of our overall operating budget.
For a year, yeah.
For a year, so there is some level of help from U.S. Soccer, not a lot. So we have to supplement that elsewhere, and it can't come out of our pockets because we're already stretched thin with our operating budget for the season. So we set up the GoFundMe account, and within 3 days, I'll check it right now. We were, before we got on the show here, we were just over 6,000, and now we're at almost $7,000 in 3 days of a $15,000 goal. So thank you so much if anyone's listening who put up a donation for us.
That is awesome.
It is totally awesome, and we'll definitely do something for the folks that gave us some donations, but it isn't enough. It's never enough when you're run the way we are, with being very fiscally responsible with our cash. So, it sucks, but it just speaks to the fact that we have a very close-knit community with people that support our team, and then people that support our team, or just support the fact that we're a little guy and we're getting stepped on by the big machine. So
yeah.
The GoFundMe.
What's the GoFundMe, man?
So if you go to GoFundMe.com/undefeated-2018, or you can pretty much just go to the Minneapolis City Twitter account or Facebook account, and you can see all the people that are sharing that they've donated, and you can click on that link, and you can donate today. And again, if you do help us out, it won't go unnoticed. There's some perks for helping us out if you choose to do so. Every little bit helps, and we really hope that we can make this work.
Yeah, I think the outpouring of support from the soccer community locally has been great. I think it sounds like a lot of people have been willing to share throughout their own supporters groups, not only here at home but in Ohio and all over the country. It's on Reddit. I'm just really excited for how this kind of stuff takes life on the internet. It's very strange to see it firsthand.
Yeah,
but
it is kind of strange. But yeah, it's strange and beautiful in the same breath.
Yeah. So you mentioned the big machine, John, of soccer, and I want to talk a little bit about that in the new segment that we will be calling Nate's Old Granddad Rant. I don't know if you can hear the ice clinking around, but I've been going hard at this old granddad through most of the show.
As have I.
Mm-hmm.
I got
a lot of problems with you people. And by you people, I mean the U.S. Open Cup.
You're like You're like the drunk uncle on Saturday Night Live right now.
No. But what is wrong? What is wrong with the U.S. Open Cup, John? Like, I'm not going to blame them for this random draw because it had to be one of us, right? I get if you're really rolling the die, their probability states that eventually we would have got a home game, but like three bad rolls in a row could happen. Both of our teams have traveled for one game. Both of us lucked into a forfeit in another. So I'm not railing against some sort of inequity here. Like we've each taken a road game. We've each benefited from a forfeit. Sweet. But this is just another example of how the U.S. Open Cup and U.S. soccer in general really does give no shits about lower league or amateur teams in the tournament. And I'm going to tell you why. The problem is with this tournament is that as soccer grows, and it's growing every year, it's growing from the lower divisions on this pyramid. And that's the real growth you're seeing in this tournament participation. For every Minnesota United and like LAFC, there are going to be dozens of Elgin Pumas, Muskegon Risers, Kingston Stockades, Minneapolis Cities that are going to be popping up every year. So you maybe get one or two MLS expansion teams a year. You're getting dozens of NPSL, NASL, probably not NASL, but PLA or whatever the new thing is, UPSL,
USPSL,
whatever they're fucking called. You're getting dozens of these teams popping up all over because people want to get because soccer is growing. That's what's happening, and that's the natural evolution of soccer in America. But the problem is the U.S. Open Cup is stacked against amateur teams. Like none of them have won since 1999, almost 20 years. A lot of it is, of course, due to like NCAA rules. So anyone that has a really good team during the course of the summer and finds some sort of chemistry, that chemistry gets blown up as soon as all those kids have to go back to school. Of course, there's spotty participation across the country. Some regions are more concentrated than others when it comes to soccer. A lot of California teams, a lot of Florida teams, like one Oregon team, that kind of a thing. So that weeds out a lot, as do the expenses that we're finding, and in some cases, the isolation, like I mentioned, Oregon. And the problem, and then even if you make the tournament, even if you get past this qualifying round that we're in, you've got 5 rounds of increasingly difficult matches during May and June. The five games during May and June, which is the height of our schedule. Like we're in full. Our season is going in May and June. So you throw in 5 more games that probably involve trips to other cities. At least 2 or 3 of them do, and that means amateur teams are the longest of long shots to advance. We saw Miami FC, we saw FC Cincinnati advance pretty far last year, and that was about it, and they are only a little bit below the top level of U.S. soccer. So my question to you, John, and to the people listening is like, when are we going to call it what it is? Like, this is like Mad Max here. We're just hoping for like a drop of Immortan Joe's water to fall from the mountaintop. Like, the more of us there are every year, the harder it is going to be for any real amateur team to get a bit of that recognition or really get a shot at being being the Christos FCs of the country. But the problem is U.S. soccer and the U.S. Open Cup is going to be promoting that one team that made it as far as possible against all odds in order to get the rest of us to bite. So I guess my question, John, is, did the Bavarians have it right? Like, is it better to just say F it to the U.S. Open Cup and go for something that's winnable and logistically possible? Or is there some magical state of being that we'll be able to achieve when enough lower league teams flood the tournament and turn it into what could become an all year thing? That's my rant.
Wow. Way to go, Nate.
I threw a lot at you.
You did. I think, let me start off by saying one thing. The U.S. Open Cup is the championship of our country from a soccer perspective. It literally is, you are the best team in our country above all other soccer teams. So why do we stack the deck against... Now I'm going on my old granddad rant here. Why do we stack the deck against amateur teams when this whole entire tournament is based off of historically... if you go back in the annals of history, on amateur soccer teams. Before 1999, professional teams didn't win the tournament. It was your Milwaukee Bavarians. It was your Hungarian Americans. It was your Greek Americans. It was your ethnic clubs. So now we're in a situation where we have hundreds of these regional qualifying teams that want to participate, and we could have even more if the deck wasn't stacked against them to truly give everyone a shot. You look at the FA Cup in England. You don't have a team from the fourth division in England forfeiting a game because they can't get to to play against MK Dons in a qualifying match. No, they're gonna. Geographically, it works for them, but the interest level is there. And here, you talked about it that soccer is on the rise from a participation perspective. It sure doesn't feel like it to me when you get smacked in the face by a federation that is in such turmoil itself that they really don't know what to do. So then they just kind of coddle together this really historically important thing for U.S. soccer. And it's just it seems like it's run by a bunch of half-assed interns, and it's no one cares. And then you start televising games, like you said, of Christos playing against DC United, and there's 10,000 people there, and you're like, oh, look how great this little team from Baltimore is. You're like, don't give us that bullshit. Don't try to make it seem like it's something that it isn't. That was the one team that out of hundreds came through because they fought the hardest and they won the games, and then they took the financial hit, and then you reward the eventual champion with cash, and you're like, why does
and for 20 years MLS teams have won it. They don't need the fucking cash. I'll tell you a secret. The money should be for the furthest advancing amateur team.
Right. And if you're going to keep, trotting out the dog and pony show of the Harpos and Christos, who just fight like hell to be the last amateur team standing, and then you give them a little bit of a reward that's not even enough to get to them to play against a team like DC United or Kansas City or any of the MLS teams, it's total bullshit. And there has to be a look into this tournament going forward, because we can't change anything now, there has to be some revamp of what the qualifying process is for teams that aren't carrying professional status. And that goes down to the fact that if a team can't move a division like we did last year in the amateur level, then a team at the pro level can't do it either. U.S. soccer is speaking out of both sides of its mouth because they're so MLS heavy. And I hate to bring up Pro Rel into this conversation, but if we had an open system, there'd be no way this stuff is happening at all. No way. Because you're taking the financial piece completely out of it. Because a team that would win the NPSL championship could have a chance to move up to the next level, and then there's a cash reward there from a league play perspective. And the U.S. Open Cup is going back to then truly what it was, is competing to be the champion of the United States. And until we change something, it's not going to get any better. It's only going to get worse.
Yeah, I think ultimately, I'll leave it at this, and I think, hopefully the rant has worked, and everything will change. The skies will open up. But, we don't have any illusions that Minneapolis City can win the U.S. Open Cup, just like Lincoln or who's the team with the guy that ate the pie on the sideline? Sussex or something. Anyway, they didn't have any illusions that they could win, but they got pretty far, and that was really exciting. And they were only able to do it because they were competing within a system that treated all levels of soccer equally. And I get that that's not the reality in U.S. soccer day to day, but at least for this tournament, can you make it that way so that it's not just a total fucking farce? That's all I'm saying. So that's all for tonight's show. Thank you, as always, to our sponsor, Summit. They have helped us fuel our fire on game day. They can help you, too. Thanks also to Old Granddad. Your rant has been delicious. Get on down to your bar or liquor store and partake immediately. Hey, Minneapolis City memberships for 2018 are available now. If you haven't paid the $50 for your membership, you've missed out on some exciting news, specifically voting for a new logo next year. $50 will get you a ticket to every home game if you pay right now. And who knows, any home U.S. Open Cup games if they decide to stop putting it where the sun don't shine. The 2018 member scarf, of course, member card, and a place at the table in Soccer Valhalla. You make it happen because it's not going to get any cheaper. Head to mplscitysc.com and check it out. Of course, also check out our GoFundMe. Our GoFundMe page is www.gofundme.com/undefeated-2018. You can probably also search for Minneapolis City on GoFundMe. Hey, we love to give back, even though we're taking right now. And we need the help and support of the people. If you're looking to align yourself with a fine group that loves to give back, you're in luck, because we are a 501c3 that does good on and off the pitch. Every donation is fully tax deductible. Consider giving to the club that gives back. If you want to get a hold of us, we've made it easy. Me and John, of course, are available at all times on Twitter. You just send us a note at The People's Pitch or through email at mcscpodcast@gmail.com. Tell me I'm wrong. All questions, comments, and concerns are welcome. And finally, you can always hit the club up if you want to get a hold of them at MPLSCitySC on Twitter. That is all for this week. We're going to leave you with our house band, Go Get 'Em Tiger. They're going to take it away with We Live with the Pines. Hey, you know what? I'm excited to be a member of Minneapolis City this week. I hope you guys are too. I am Nate. That is John. And we are done.